It's Monday, December 11th. This is the City of Brainerd City Council meeting. Who's calling the roll today? You are?
I'll give it a try. After
I can
9
read
years.
it if you need to.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Patrick.
Stunek.
Here.
Terry. Johnson.
Here.
Bevins.
Here.
Badeau.
Here.
O'Day.
Here.
Stangline.
Here.
Chezuk.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have one agenda item. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Johnson.
Motion by Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Stunek. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up is the only item on the agenda, and that's the public budget hearing. Connie, are you going to give us a rundown before we actually open the public hearing?
That was the plan, yes.
Do it.
Unless you change it.
No?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. So we're here tonight to discuss the City of Brainerd's 2024 budget and levy and to allow for public input. This is not the meeting to discuss the valuation that has been placed on your properties. That meeting is held in May. Questions regarding valuation and classification can be directed to the Land Services Department at the county, and their number is 218-824-1010. The Minnesota property tax system is very complex, so this is a simplified version of it. Everything starts with the estimated market value of your property. In Crow Wing County, that is determined by the assessor's office. Then a statutory formula is applied based on how the property is classified, such as commercial, residential, homestead, etc. This equals the tax capacity of the city. This is all the sum of the different parcels in the city. Then we have the city levy, which is also the city revenue or income, divided by the tax capacity of the city equals the city's tax rate. The tax rate is then applied to each individual parcel within the city to determine the property owner's tax bill. The taxing jurisdictions, such as the city, county, or school districts, set the levy in dollars. The taxing jurisdictions do not set the tax rate. Your property value determines your proportionate share of the dollars that goes to each jurisdiction, and the tax rate is the result of the levy dollars deeded and the total tax capacity of the jurisdiction. So let's start by looking at the estimated market value. The estimated market value of your property on January 2nd, 2023 is what is used to calculate the amount you pay in property taxes in 2024. So how is this value determined? One of the main items that the assessor's office uses is the sales ratio study, which analyzes sales that took place within the time frame of October 2021 to September 2022. This study determines your value on January 2nd, 2023 assessment day. Then you receive your value notices in March of 2023. The meetings for the Board of Appeals and Equalization is held in May. Proposed property tax statements are sent out in November, and then we are here tonight for the tax levy hearing. Actual property tax statements will be mailed in March of 2024, and then the first half of taxes are due May 15th, and the second half are due October 15th. Overall, the estimated market value of the city increased 14.9% for pay year 2024 over pay year 2023. This is a lower percentage increase than last year. However, it is still a significant increase. It is in the double digits. The biggest dollar increase is in the residential properties, with a 14.2% increase, or 71% of the total dollar increase. This increase is due in part to the new construction, but also the sales ratio study that was discussed on the previous slide. This chart shows the history of the estimated market values for the city of Brainerd. We had a 22.2% increase that was significant for pay year 2023, and we have another double-digit increase for pay year 2024 at 14.9%. Double-digit increases alone are unique, and yet being 2 years in a row, this is something we have not seen since 2015, in which we have not had a double increase up until 2023. Let's look at the tax capacity of the city. Again, the tax capacity is determined by taking the estimated market value and applying a statutory formula based on classification. This equates to an estimated tax capacity of $12,971,998 for the city for pay year 2024. This is a $1,888,334 increase in tax capacity. On average, the tax capacity of the city has been 1.1% of the estimated market value. This graph is an estimated of the tax capacity by classification. In 2020, we saw the residential being at 56%, the commercial industrial being at 32%, and the other classification at 11%, compared to 2024, where we see 62% being residential, 28% being commercial industrial, and 10% being other. Over the last years, we've seen a shift in the tax burden from commercial industrial properties to other and to residential, with residential now being 62% of the total tax capacity. So what does an increase in the tax capacity mean to the city? Well, if we have the city's levy, which is the city's revenue, and there's no change to the levy, and we have an increase in the tax capacity, we see a decrease in the city's tax rate. So now that we have looked at the estimated market value and the tax capacity for the city, the next thing we need to look at is the city's levy. The city determines its levy through the budgeting process. We estimate all of the expenditures, personnel costs, supplies, services, debt, and capital, and we estimate all of the non-property tax revenues, such as fees, fines, LGA. The difference between the two is the levy needed. Per the League of Minnesota Cities Handbook, budgeting is basically planning and prioritizing goals for the upcoming year based on experiences in the past year or years. We will start by taking a look at the operating expenditures and personnel services. We see just under a $670,000 increase over the 2023 adopted budget. We are budgeting to have 27 sworn police officers. The budget for 2023 had 25.5, with the plan of getting to 27 officers during the year. We reached that goal in September. The additional 1.5 officers will be funded 100% with the one-time public safety aid the city is to receive before the end of the year. We will see this reflected in the use of fund balance later on. We are also budgeting to have the current 6 open full-time positions will be filled in 2024. We're budgeting that any new employees will elect the $3,200 family plan option for health insurance. The city conducted a compensation and classification study in 2023 and is working on a plan for implementation. 2 unions that affect the levy amount and the non-union department heads and supervisors' wages have not been settled for 2024. An estimate is included in the budget. If we look at supplies, we see an increase of about $30,800 over the 2023 budget. This is due to an increase in repairs and maintenance costs and the cost of overall supplies such as salt and sand. Services, we see an increase of $126,529 over the 2023 budget. This assumes that the city will continue to lease vehicles, includes funds for codification and increase in contracts such as misdemeanor prosecutor and audit services. We have an increase in computer support, which is an increase in the cost of the overall software used by the city. And we see an increase in the cost of abatement and nuisances as we have been abating the nuisances, and an increase in the amount of aid passed to the Fire Relief Association, which will see an offset of the income as well. The city also needs to take into consideration capital needs. The capital levy is for all city-owned facilities, to fund equipment needs for all departments. And you can see that there's no increase in the levy for the capital fund. Total capital purchases budgeted for 2024 total $1,760,203, excluding the equipment for the enterprise funds. This is a summary of the total capital purchases that are currently being budgeted for 2024. The city is planning on using $204,397 of ARPA funds for 2024 equipment purchases as well. And the Park Board has requested a long-time capital maintenance amount in the amount of $349,000 for 2024. This funding may not be spent in 2024, but it will be used in future years to offset the cost of projects. You may have noticed that the levy for the capital equipment and facilities was $1,255,927, yet we're planning on spending a little over $1.76 million in 2024. A goal of the City Council is not to have to issue debt for equipment and facilities. The next slide will show a portion of the 30-year capital plan. We are assuming that the capital levy will stay the same over the next 5 years at the $1,255,927. We have the $1,760,000 of proposed capital expenditures for 2024, as seen on the last page, and we have $349,000 of park long-term capital maintenance. We have the planned capital over the next 4 years that we know of today. However, this has not been updated for 2025 and beyond for the work that the Park Board has done with capital planning. The bottom line shows the city has enough cash not to have to issue debt for equipment and facilities at this time. However, like we said, there's not an inflation built into the plan, and the future capital expenditures do need to be updated for the Parks Department. The city also needs to levy for debt service. The city needs to levy what is needed to make the August 24 and the February 2025 payments. We see an increase in the amount of the debt levy of $57,193. The city also has to levy items that are set by the charter or that the city has to fund. The levy for the permanent improvement in roads and for the senior center, green space, and community festivals are based on a percentage of the 2023 overall levy. The library requested a 2.5% increase, but the council kept the library levy the same as 2023. The EDA levy is the maximum allowed by state statute, and the airport contribution has been reduced by $9,420, which is the amount that the county has agreed to increase their contribution to the airport to avoid the double taxation for the Brainerd residents in 2024. So when we total all of the estimated expenditures that are supported by the levy, the total 2024 budget expenditures total $16,025,618. This is an increase of $916,729 from the 2023 budget, or 6.07%. Now that we have the total budget expenditures, we need to look at the non-property tax revenues. The budgeted non-property tax revenues total $9,019,826, which is an estimated increase of $339,437 compared to the 2023 budget. The city is budgeting a decrease in total tax and other taxes, specifically a decrease in the excess tax increment. As the tax rate decreases, the city is closer to the tax rate of the TIF districts when they were certified, and therefore we receive less tax increment. The city is budgeting an increase in grants and aid. The biggest portion is coming from the 2024 certified local government aid, which is $543,000 increase over 2023, as well as an increase in the amount of the fire and police state aid the city anticipates to receive based on funding that was received in 2023. We're budgeting a decrease in other revenues. This is due to the estimated decrease in contributions from BPU sales, as the crypto companies are not up and running yet as we had estimated in 2023. There's also a decrease in transfers in. In 2023, we had budgeted transfers in funds from the capital study for the wage study that was being saved in the capital fund but was being paid out of the general fund, as well as using almost $180,000 from the capital fund to lower the 2023 levy. Another item to consider in setting the levy is any use or addition to fund balance. 2024 is an election year. The city budgets $15,000 in a year for the elections that are held every other year. Therefore, in 2023, the city increased the fund balance by $15,000 that will be used in 2024, the election year. You also see the fund balance of the amount used of about $145,000 of public safety aid. This is the budgeted amount of the 1.5 additional sworn officers as discussed earlier. So the amount between the budgeted expenditures and the budgeted non-property tax revenues equals the 2023 levy needed, or 2024 levy needed, and the amount of $6,845,792, which is an increase of 6.25% over the 2023 levy. The 2024 preliminary levy was adopted in September at $7,121,720. This was a 10.53% increase over the 2023 levy. The 2024 preliminary levy was used to calculate the proposed property tax statements that the property owners just received. The city's final levy in December can be lower but cannot be higher than the preliminary levy. Since September, line items have been reviewed and the one-time police public safety aid was designated to pay for the additional 1.5 full-time sworn police officers. Line items have also been adjusted for actual revenues received in the case of police and fire state aid funds and the recent adoption of the fee schedule. Therefore, the final levy could be set at 6.24% increase to cover the budgeted expenditures. This table shows the preliminary levies and the final levies, or proposed in the case of 2024. The city would like to avoid the peaks and valleys in the levy that we had in 2011, where we decreased the levy for 2 years. 2013, we held it the same. And then in 2014 and 2015, we had 12.65 and a 10% increase in the levy. This table also shows that for 8 out of the last 15 years, the council has reduced the final levy set in December from the preliminary levy that was set in September. The city has over 80 different funds, but it does not officially adopt budgets for all of its funds. This is a graph that shows the funding sources for all governmental funds that the city does adopt a budget for. The city does have 2 enterprise funds that it officially adopts a budget. However, the information is excluded from this graph. We have the amount that the city levies, which is 38.8% of all revenues budgeted. The next biggest portion comes from intergovernmental revenue at 43.4% of budgeted revenues. This is revenue from the state, and the biggest portion is in the form of local government aid. In 2024, the LGA is certified to be $5,238,862, and just under a $453,000 increase from 2023. Then we have the revenue charged from services and fines. This is 7.7% of the total budgeted revenues. The city's contribution from Brainerd Public Utilities, which is 4.4% of budgeted revenues. And then we have other taxes, licenses, permits, and miscellaneous items such as interest and assessments, which total 5.6% of the total budgeted revenues. It is important to note that 62.1% of budgeted revenues come from sources other than property taxes. If we look at the expense side, the general, public safety, parks, and street and sewer funds are what we consider the working funds, and the activities from these funds are supported by the levy, which totals 69.4% of total budgeted expenditures. We have transit at 9%, capital at 9.7%, debt at 5.4%, road maintenance at 2.1%, and other, the programs in the charter, such as the Green Space Senior Center, senior activities and community festivals, the library, EDA, recycling fund, and city-owned parking lots, which total 4.3% of total budgeted expenditures. So now let's look at the city's tax rate. With a levy of $6,845,792, or 6.24%, the city's estimated 2024 tax rate is 53.24%. The rate is estimated to be a decrease of 5.424% from the 2023 tax rate of 58.664%. You need to keep in mind that the preliminary levy was set at a 10.53% increase and had an estimated tax rate of 55.388%. This is what was used for the proposed property tax statements just received. And again, the City Council does not set the tax rate. The tax rate is a result of the levy amount set by council and the tax capacity of the city. Now let's look at the impact of applying the city's tax rate to the individual property tax owner's tax capacity, which determines the property owner's tax bill for 2024. Assuming a residential homestead property owner had an estimated market value of $150,000 in 2023, the property owner's tax capacity would have been $1,263, and that is determined by taking the estimated market value of $150,000, applying the homestead exclusion and the statutory percentage. We then apply the city's tax rate of 58.664% to the tax capacity, and that homeowner would have paid $741 in city taxes in 2023. This table shows changes to the city tax liability for 2024, assuming that there was no change in the property tax value. So this shows that if there was no change in the value, this property owner, or no change in the levy, the property owner would have saw a $108 decrease. With the 10.53% increase in the levy, the homeowner would have saw a $42 decrease, and the 6.24% would have saw a $69 decrease. However, this is not what property owners are seeing because their estimated market values have increased, and the tax levy used for the proposed property tax statement had a levy increase of 10.53%, which is now currently at 6.24%. With the proposed property tax statement, a residential homeowner who paid $741 in city tax liability in 2023, but had the average of 14.9% increase in the estimated market value, is seeing a $94 increase in their city tax liability. Now, with a 6.24% increase in the levy, the same homeowner who had a 14.9% increase in the estimated market value would actually be seeing an estimated $61 a year increase in the tax liability. To compute the updated city tax liability, take the city tax liability from the proposed tax statement and subtract 3.8781%. In this scenario, if a homeowner had a 7.87% or more increase in their estimated market value, they see their city tax liability for pay year 2024 increase. If we take a look at the total tax liability impact for a residential home property owner using a 4.9% increase in the estimated market value, the total tax liability for 2024 is estimated to be $1,585 or 9.33% increase. The proposed property tax statement would have showed an 11.56% increase in the total tax liability. There are two reasons that your tax bill changes. One, there's a change in the tax rate, which is a result of the levy dollars set by the taxing jurisdiction and the total tax capacity of the jurisdiction, and a change in estimated market value. For 2024, the total tax rate is down. We see the total tax rate for 2023 was 105.224%, where 2024 is estimated to be 96.079%. The tax rate would mean that the taxes would have been reduced by $117 or 9.05%. However, due to the increase in the estimated market value, the homeowner's tax liability increased by $252 or 17.38% for a net increase of $135 or 9.33%. For this homeowner, the increase per jurisdiction is listed, with the county share being $61 or 45% of the total increase. In 2024, for every dollar a residential property owner pays in taxes, 21 cents goes to Crow Wing County, 1 cent is for the HRA in Region 5, 27 cents for the school district, and 51 cents goes to the city. Now if we look at the impact for a commercial property owner, assuming a commercial property owner had an estimated market value of $525,200 in 2023, the property owner's tax capacity would have been $9,754. Again, that's determined by taking the estimated market value and applying the statutory percentage for commercial property. Then if we apply the city's tax rate of 58.664% to the tax capacity, that commercial property owner would have paid $5,722 in city taxes in 2023. Assuming there is no change to the value, this table shows that the estimated change in the city tax liability based on various changes to the city's levy. It shows with a 0% change in the levy, this commercial property owner would have saw an $835 decrease. With the 6.24% increase in the levy, a decrease of $529. And with a 10.53 increase in the levy, a $320 decrease in the levy. However, again, this is not what they are seeing because the property value has changed and the tax levy has been decreased since the preliminary levy was sent. With the proposed property tax statement, the commercial property owner who paid $5,722 in city tax liability in 2023, but had the average increase of 14.9% of their estimated market value, is seeing a $547 a year increase in their city tax liability. With a 6.25% increase in the levy, that same commercial property owner who has a 14.9% increase in the estimated market value will actually see an estimated $304 increase in their city tax liability. Again, to compute the city tax liability for 2024, take the tax liability from the preliminary statement and subtract 3.8781%. For this commercial industrial property owner, it is calculated that if they had a 9.45% or more increase in their estimated market value, they would see an increase in the city tax liability for pay year 2024. If we take a look at the total tax impact for the commercial property owner, using a 14.9% increase in the estimated market value, the total tax liability for 2023 would have been $13,163. The proposed 2024 tax liability would be $14,077, or a 6.94% increase. However, the proposed property tax statement would have shown an 8.78% increase. Again, there's the two reasons for the increase: over the change in the tax liability, change in tax rate, and change in estimated market value. Again, we know from before that the total tax rates have gone down, as well as the city's general rate has gone from 33% to 30%. So with a change in tax rate, this property owner would see a decrease of $1,122 in taxes. However, due to the increase in their estimated market value, they see an increase of $2,036 or 15.4%, for a net increase of $914 or 6.94%. The property owner, the increase per taxing jurisdiction is listed with the city share being $304 or 33% of the total increase. In 2024, for every dollar a commercial property owner pays in taxes, 19 cents goes to the state general fund, 18 cents to the Crow Wing County, 1 cent for Region 5 HRA, 19 cents to the school district, and 43 cents for the city. The final levy and budget will be adopted at the December 18th, 2023 council meeting, and the final levy must be certified to the county auditor by December 29th, 2023. Now we will open up for public comment.
Perfect. It is any questions on
Just one, if I could.
Mr. Chesak?
Is market value and valuation the same? Is market value and valuation the same?
You could say it's the same. I mean, I guess I like to use as what the value of my property on my tax statement is the value of my property, but if you'd have it be appraised, it might be something different.
But when we speak here tonight, it's virtually the same, right?
Yes, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? All right, it is 6:28, and we will open the public hearing on the budget and tax levy. And anybody who wishes to speak, come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and tell us what you think. Sean, do we have anybody online? No. At this point, we have nobody online. If we did have somebody online, *3 notifies us that you're interested in speaking, and *6 will unmute you. Seeing nobody online, I'll ask a second time in the audience if anybody wishes to speak on the 2024 proposed tax levy and budget. And I will ask a final time if anybody wishes to speak on the proposed tax levy and budget for 2024. Hearing no comments, at 6:29, we will close the public hearing, and we will look for a motion to adjourn to closed session for union negotiation strategy session pursuant to Minnesota statutes 13D.03 subdivision 1B to prepare for negotiations with the IBEW Local 31 and the IUOE Local 49 unions. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Stunek. Is there a second by Stengline? Any discussion? Hearing none, we will close the meeting and go into closed session for union negotiations. And if you're not part of union